There are 5 builds that I'm really looking forward to playing, and there is one that I believe will be the best league starter and potentially the meta of this league, and it's not even in those 5 builds. So let's begin. At number 5, I have the Warbringer Ancestral Warrior Totem build, which is focusing on endurance charges. The reason why I'm putting this build at my number 5 spot is because of all the buffs that it actually got. Ancestral Warrior Totem has gotten a pretty significant damage buff and also scales with our weapon. It summons minions that can fight for you and costs endurance charges. These charges can now come from brand new support gems like Perfected Endurance and Enduring Impact, which means we will want to focus on heavy stunning our enemies and perfect strike for boss fights. There is no limit to how many totems we can place, so if we focus heavily on building endurance charges, we can literally spam it to summon as many minions as we can to fight for us, and again, their damage is now significantly increased. To enhance this tech further, we will go for the Ascendancy Warbringer. The reason why is simple. Answered Call has been significantly buffed as well. It now allows us to summon more totems and summon ancestral spirits that are also buffed further. Summoning multiple spirits plus Perfect Strike will create a pretty good boss killing build. And to help us manage our map clearing ability a little bit more, we're also looking at the Ascendancy node called Warcaller's Bellow, which explodes corpses when you Warcry, dealing 25% of their life as physical damage, and ignoring the cooldown of the Warcry, therefore you can spam it forever. At number 4, I've got the Full Blast Minion build on the Witch. Accuracy now doesn't matter on the minions, so they will hit more often, dealing more damage. For this build, we will be using skeletal brutes that deal decent damage, but now got a brand new commanding Warcry that intimidates enemies and consumes freeze on enemies and allies, dealing damage around them. With the brutes, we're also gonna have skeletal frost mages that apply ice armor on all our minions, increasing their defense and dealing extra damage on enemies. But the most important thing is that ice armor that the frost mages add also makes them count as frozen, which means that our brutes can blast them for even more damage. This means that our skeletal frost mages not only are going to deal damage, but also increase our minions' defenses. They will also enable themselves to be blasted by our brutes. But that means that we're killing our own minions. And to help us sustain this clear, Unearth can now summon back all of your dead minions, which will create a cycle of never-ending blasting. And to top all of that off, Spectres have been significantly buffed and have their spirits lowered, so finding a good Spectre will also add to this build. At number 3, I've got the Stormweaver Sorceress Elemental build. I mean, this was probably the flashiest and best looking build in the reveal. So with the new elemental infusions that we can collect through some abilities, we will be able to enhance our main abilities to either deal more damage through the same element or add a completely new element on them for more impact. A simple and good combo could be using Spark and Orb of Storms together will get you Lightning Infusion because of Orb of Storms. Then we can empower this same combo by using a Flame Wall with our Lightning Infusions on, which will cause Flame Wall to not only empower the projectiles with extra lightning, but also with fire. We can also add Frost Bomb into our kit to randomly place while we're spamming Spark, which will also generate Cold Infusions too that will add to our Spark damage. And to make it easier to gather infusions, we're going for the Stormweaver Ascendancy, as it saw some significant general buffs and some reworks around the tree for the infusion mechanic. For example, Storm's Recollection makes the remnants that we collect reappear 3 seconds after being collected. And Refracted Infusion gives us 50% chance to gain another infusion when collecting them. At my number 2 spot, I've got another warrior build. I just couldn't resist this one. Let's just simply call it the Fire Warrior. First of all, they reworked how Ignite works. And this is important to know. We will now need to build up flammability, which is a debuff that stacks. And the higher you go, the more chance you have of igniting the enemy. Second of all, they significantly buffed volcanic fissures, which now create branches on the ground that deal pretty decent damage and can be triggered with our abilities too. So we can either use volcanic fissures into something, or Simply go for the brand new ability called Forge Hammer. With this new ability, we throw a hammer that slams the ground and deals damage on impact. We can reuse that same skill again to recall the hammer and reset the cooldown. So you can either walk around and just throw the Forge Hammer back and forth, or we can enhance it further with the Forge Hammer's second trigger. When we use a war cry near it, it will shatter and create molten fissures on the ground. If you use another slam ability, it will cause an aftershock from the fissures and deal even more damage. And guess which ability is a slam ability? That's right, the Forge Hammer itself. And to top all of that off, we need a war cry to create this effect, right? We use this ability with Glory, which we get from igniting monsters, which is exactly why I mentioned how Ignite and Flammability works earlier. When we use the war cry, it will enable our footsteps to trigger volcanic steps and our slams to be ancestrally boosted, dealing a lot more damage and triggering multiple eruptions. And that's just by using the war cry on its own, by the way. Imagine using it on top of the fissures that we created from the Forge Hammer. This combo is going to be really good for clearing and for boss fights as well, but we can also add the perfect strike for boss fights too, just in case. Now, before revealing the build I'm most looking forward to playing, it's time to show you the build that I truly believe will be the meta and the strongest build in this league. I'll definitely try it out, but I'm not as excited as I am for the other 5, and that is, once again, the Lightning Arrow Lightning Rod Deadeye build. I truly believe that for yet another league, the Deadeye is going to be on the top most played builds, and the reason? Pretty simple. Lightning Arrow and Lightning Rod did not see any nerfs in 0.3. Actually, the opposite. Towards the end of Dawn of the Hunt, these abilities saw a slight damage increase, and with 0.3, Lightning Rod got a slight buff too. Its quality can now cause extra bursts. In addition to that, Deadeye got buffed as well. Crazy, I know, but listen to this. Cold Shots is now a meta skill that automatically marks nearby enemies with whatever mark you're using, and ignores the limit on how many you got marked. The reason why Cold Shots is broken is because of the rework they did to Eagle Eyes. Eagle Eyes now no longer removes accuracy penalty, but consuming a mark applies 20 stacks of critical weakness to enemies. This will increase its damage significantly, allowing you to even spec into more damage instead of 100% crit due to critical weakness. You can then either go for Endless Munitions for even more projectiles, or Tailwind for the movement speed. With the new deflect mechanic as well, and the new sprinting mechanic, or simply using a Roa, the Lightning Arrow Deadeye build will once again probably be the fastest and best league starter in the game. However, the build I'm most looking forward to playing has to be the Unarmed Monk build. This build can go either way, Invoker or Chayula, as they both got pretty significant buffs to their tree, and I'll be testing both of them. The Monk can now path towards the passive tree keystone called Hollow Palm Technique, which will allow us to use Quarterstaff abilities as unarmed, and since we won't be using any weapon slots, they're significantly boosted. In addition to those bonuses that you see right here, unarmed attacks now have a base crit hit chance of 5%. Another passive tree keystone we know that got buffed is the Walker of the Wilds, which our mana leech recovers based on elemental damage instead of physical damage. And specifically, Invoker's elemental expressions damage for all elements has been buffed, but also Meditate has been buffed with its cooldown lowered and energy shield recharge rate increased significantly. And with all that in mind, we can easily go for a basic Ice Strike Invoker Monk build with Ice Strike, Tempest Bell, Charged Staff, and our 2 or maybe even 3 Heralds. And let's not forget that evasion now comes with the deflect mechanic, which is gonna make this even tankier. But as I also said before, Acolyte of Chayula got some insane buffs too, with almost its entire ascendancy tree being either buffed or reworked. There are plenty of builds that I see working here too. So that's my 5 most anticipated builds that I want to play, plus one that I think is going to take over the meta. What do you guys think about these 5 and the Deadeye as well? Let me know in the comment section down below. Don't forget that if you have any questions or you simply want to watch me play the entire league, you can join us over on Twitch at twitch.tv/Scorpius_ENT or here on YouTube. Make sure that you like this video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on any other PoE2 content. Thank you very much for watching, and I'm going to see you guys on the next one. Peace.